This is Dr. Karmen Smith, and thank you for joining me because today we're going to talk about the two energies that are present on the planet at this time. And the energies are fear, and you can see that all around. Fear is the gateway to suffering. And if you're a Star Wars fan, you know that Yoda said fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. And so a lot of the racial unrest, the hatred of different types of people, different types of religions, political parties, all of that stems from fear. And so when we understand that fear is the path to the dark side, it's something that, well, wait a minute, I don't want to go to the dark side. And so you have to ask yourself, what fear messages have you been given? And if you watch the political ads, you'll know that there is a lot of fear-driven or fear-based ideas, fear-based propaganda. In other words, people are coming to get you. They're going to take what's yours. And so you need law and order, and you need for me to protect you. I am the great protector. And in order for you to believe that, you have to buy into the fear that they're selling, and you have to consume the fear that they're teaching. So you always want to monitor yourself and say, am I reacting out of fear? Am I believing this fear-based propaganda, these fear-based ideas? And if I am believing it, that means that I can be controlled by the very people that are giving me that fear, that are putting it out there. And so you don't want to be controlled or led by fear-based thinking. Because according to Yoda, fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. And hate leads to suffering.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
So you do see some people that are very, very angry on social media. You can say just one thing that is neutral, but yet they may take it to an anger level, and they direct their hatred at you. Oftentimes not at the idea. They direct the hatred at you for putting it up there, or for you speaking your mind. And they shame you and guilt you, and basically they're spreading their fear, anger, and hate, directing it towards you. And you also see that with leaders. And they will do the same thing in order to what? Control a person, stamp down their opinion, their thoughts, their creativity. And they will direct their fear, anger, and hate towards you. Whenever you see that, that is a person that is suffering from a lack of love. And this is the other energy that is in our world right now. But sometimes we're blind to it because we're steeped in fear. But love is all around us. Now, love is, if you've ever seen a mom and her newborn baby, this is an oxytocin-induced love, meaning in her whole body, there is nothing that's going to reject that child. That child is unconditionally loved. And that is what we are. We as human beings have the ability to unconditionally love ourselves and love other people. We see that in the mother-child bond. But also there's another bond that happens And that is God, the universe, this wonderful, loving energy can invade us, and we can transmute fear. We can overcome fear. That love can overcome anything. Now, love leads to compassion. Compassion is when you love another person, even though you see the fear in them, you love that person, because we are generators of love when we're connected to the divine. And we have compassion for other people. Even though we see the suffering, we love that person. We see the suffering that fear can generate, but we love that person. And when you show compassion and unconditional love, you overcome, you show that person that even though you're suffering, even though you're doing all of these things, I love you. And because you're generating that vibration, you can overcome this in yourself and in another person. So love, compassion, gratitude, and also visioning. I'm going to put visioning up here as something that is really inducive or really related to love, because love sees potential in a situation and in a person. So even though a person may be suffering with fear, low self-esteem, whatever it is, love sees the potential of that person. Love sees the best outcome for a situation. So how can we relate this to what's going on in the world? There are people that are so steeped in fear that they see a doomsday scenario, because fear can only see suffering. Love sees potential. So even though the world may seem like it's falling apart, what love sees is the destruction of what fear created, and sees a rebirth of love visioning. Love can see past suffering. Love can see past fear. So as you begin to love yourself, love people, you begin to have a wider perspective of what is possible. And so what is possible right now is a unified world. We see that with the protests, when all kinds of colors of people and religions of people come together for one purpose, and that is for the world to be more loving. They see the potential of what that can create, while fear is afraid of unity because it doesn't understand it. It has not opened itself to love. And oftentimes what people don't understand, what they don't have an experience with, they fear. So there are a lot of messages out there. Some of them are calling you to fear. Be aware of that. But let me also tell you that there are so many wonderful, loving thoughts out there, compassionate thoughts out there, grateful thoughts out there that vision a world that does not have fear, not generated, operated through fear. So if there are only two energies, you have to ask yourself, what am I bowing down to? What am I respecting more? What am I consuming more of? What am I generating out of myself every time I leave the house? Am I generating from love or fear? Now also, you can have practical ways of generating love and compassion. When I go to the store, even though we're on a lockdown and we have COVID and we have racial injustice, we have all these things going on, I dress up to go to the grocery store. Now, why would I do that? And I've gotten compliments on my outfits, and my mask matches my dress or my shoes, because I want to show the world that I vision a world of love. And I am acting from that instead of fear. That's one little way that I do that. Every person that I see, I bless them. And I want the best for them. They don't have to agree with me. They don't even have to like me, because I'm not operating off of fear, anger, hate, or suffering. I'm operating off of compassion, gratitude, and I vision the best for them and their family. Why? Because my identity is love. That's who I am. And I see other people as being in that vibration, because I have overcome suffering with love. And that's how the world gets better. So I want you to find ways where you can come from love instead of from fear. One of the other things that I do, because we're in a heat wave in Las Vegas, Nevada, oftentimes it'll be 112, 117, but I do want to get out and about, but I might not walk. So what I did was I developed a practice where I get in my car, I drive around my neighborhood, and I bless every street, every house. I just give a blessing to my community. And oftentimes I'll go out of my community and I want to bless other communities, find out how they're doing in all of this fear-based situation that we find ourselves in. A lot of people are living from fear. So who better than to drive around and see if there's a need than someone coming from love and compassion? Visualizing the best outcome. Visualizing compassion for another person. Blessing people. That's what love does. Fear separates, divides. Love unites. It brings us together. Because remember that oxytocin that the mom has for the baby, that unconditional love? That's what's needed now. We need to love each other. We need to love ourselves. Unifying ourselves and saying, I recognize that you have fear, but no more. I don't need it anymore. Compassion, being grateful for everything. And most of all, visualizing a person and circumstances unified. You don't have to agree with me, but I know who I am, and I know who you are, and I know that suffering is a lack of love. So let's talk a little bit more about love, the qualities of love, and what happens when you fear. So I went to a protest back in January, and I showed up and there were counter protesters there. There were people that were calling the people that I was there representing baby killers. There was a lot of anger there. There was a lot of fear. And I noticed that there were protesters screaming at each other, trying to change another person's opinion. So when you match fear with fear, because that means that if you're arguing about somebody so that they can change their opinion, that means that you're both operating at this level of functioning. This is a lower frequency, a lower vibration. And so you had fear matched with fear. And we know based on physiology that fear, when you have fear in your life, you're going to have a fight, flight, or freeze response. So I was at a protest where I was seeing fight, because both were coming from fear, and it was escalating and escalating. Well, I didn't come there with a vibration of fear. I came with a vibration of love. Love is different than fear. Let's just say love is a higher frequency vibration. So I went up to one of the people that was protesting, that was counter-protesting, and I said, so tell me why you're here and why this is so important to you. I was curious, and I didn't have an accusatory tone. And so that person began to spout all of their ideas about, I think it was Democrats were baby killers, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, it's just words. But I wanted to listen with an attitude of compassion. Compassion is when you see the good, you see the wrong, and then you go straight to love. It's not that you don't acknowledge, you acknowledge the wrong, but you don't dwell on it. Because you know who that person is. And that person is a part of you. You know that they are love, but they fed into and believe the fear. And so my argument is not with the person. I love the person because I came there with compassion. And so as he's telling me all of his things that he believes, I'm listening with a compassionate ear, with a kind ear, not to correct him or his ideas, not to have a specific outcome where he says, oh, I see the error of my ways. That doesn't even happen in the movies. This is about me introducing a different vibration than what he has. So he's not reacting to me with fight, flight, or freeze. He was just having a conversation, and as he is having this conversation, his energy is more relaxed as he sees that I am not a threat to him. And as we began to talk, I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, I understand. And as I put my hand on his shoulder and touched him, I could see there was a shift in him, where if nothing else, it was different than what he was expecting, and it was different than what he was used to. Because love changes something in this suffering. There was another gentleman that I talked to while I was there, and he was also spouting all of his fear-based beliefs. But even though he was saying these words, I loved him. Why? Because I came with love and compassion, and I visualized the potential in him. And so when he was done saying what he said, I said, I don't agree with those ideas, but I love you. And he was shaken because that did not match fear, fight, flight, or freeze. And so I could tell that he was shaken because I was coming from a whole different paradigm than fear. And so I want you to know that love is more powerful than fear. If you can stand in the truth of who you are love. You are the divine. Then nothing is more powerful than that. And so I always say, love wins. And people look at this as a competition. Who's going to win? It's not about who. It's about the energy that you possess. Do you possess love, or do you possess fear? Love wins every time. But most people are saturated in that. But not you. Not here. Not now. We need love warriors right now.